Attention wrestling fans, call to action to unite. Now, Bo Nickal, amongst the best who have ever done it. I mean, in all fairness, you go find me a three-time NCAA champion who also has a world gold medal and I'll stand down, but you're going to have a very hard time doing it. So when I tell you he's amongst the best, it's a literal statement. Bo's also all we got right now. I have not stood back and realized how bare the brackets are from having a wrestler in them. There was a day that wrestlers ran MMA. We ran all of combat. I can remember the last Abu Dhabi. The last Abu Dhabi happened, one of the great grappling events ever. But there was on the backside of it somebody who came out and talked about the gold medals and said it is proven that jiu-jitsu is the most effective grappling sport. And I text that person very privately and I said, well, hey, just a minute, we weren't represented. You did not put a single NCAA champion into any of the weight classes. And the last time Abu Dhabi did let us insert one of our NCAA champions, his name was called Mark Kerr. He was the smashing machine who had a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he won the whole goddamn thing, and he didn't have a very hard time doing it. He made them all look silly, and all of a sudden, there's a qualifier process, and you can get elected in, but they stopped letting our national, world, and Olympic champions. I don't even need our Olympic champion. I don't even need our world champions. I'll go all the way down to the NCAA, which is still very coveted, but they got none in. So you need to understand that. The days are not of yesteryear that wrestling dominated. It was yesterday that wrestlers were represented. Very big difference. You go look at the heavyweight ranks right now within the UFC. I mean, we saw with Cyril and Francis, we saw two guys that didn't know how to wrestle. But if you look a little closer at that division, we don't have a single NCAA All-American amongst them. Now, forget that I'm throwing out the word champion. I know that's a higher level of class, and NCAA All-American is also a higher level of class. But if you could tell me a time in UFC history when we have not had a single guy under contract that went through the NCAA and made it to the podium, even signed, that's going to be a very hard thing to do. And we did have one. His name was Daniel Cormier. He stepped away on his own. But you're not going to be able to find it at 205 pounds either. We don't have a single All-American under contract. You moved around to 185 pounds. We have one guy, and he did win the world championship, and he goes by the name of Chris Weidman. So it's one of these things where you got to be careful. That's why I'm calling the wrestling community to unite. We've got to get behind Bo Nickal. He's not only the best thing we got going, he's the only thing we got. Now, he's doing things very calm. Bo is not in a hurry. Bo could sign to a professional organization today. He could call me and I will have him a contract tonight with a major organization that's on television. He hasn't called me and he knows I have that ability to make it happen. He knows other people too. But in all fairness, Bo is going about this very slow. He's already had a couple of amateur fights. He's got another one coming up. He wants to get a total of 5. He wants to have that completed by 2023, and then he'll go with his pro career. I cannot resist that. I don't think there's any reason to jump in. Once you lose amateur status, you can never get it back. He's got the right to feel this out and do what he's used to on the pace that he wants. There's nothing wrong there. But if Bo was to call me and I was to tell him how to succeed at the highest levels, I would not give him the answer that everybody else has about get a private coach and make sure you're spending time on your Muay Thai and make sure that you get your guard and guillotine defense down. I would tell him that he must have the 5 W's or he's not going to get very far. Who, what, when, why, and where. If you have no story, you have no commas on your check. Simple as that. Now, that's going to be a language that he is not going to understand. That's a language that his father is not going to understand because that comes from a world where they don't do that. The sport of wrestling is to go put your skills on display. Wrestlers then just have to turn their head left and right and realize they're in an arena full of nobody and don't worry about falling off the mat and tripping onto the cameraman because there's no camera there in the first place. It's one of those things. People do not want to see that. Now, there are exceptions, and Bo happened to come from one, which is Penn State. It's the only college in America that sells out wrestling events, just like every other college is used to doing with football games and men's basketball programs in certain areas. They will sell out a wrestling event, and they will have cameras, and they will have the spotlight. It comes from a very special thing. But Bo, if he misses track and thinks that's because of the skills of the high crotch of himself and his teammates, we're back to square one. You cannot get anything done in sport if you don't have a rival. If there is not heat, it is not possible to have sizzle. Period. Islam Makhachev became a number one contender and had it taken away from him 2 days later with the power of the pin because there's no story there. It's not that he wasn't good at fighting. There was just no story. In addition to that, Benny Darush was in the same spot. He was great with the fighting. He spent all of his time on the skills, and boy, does he have them. But now you got two turds in a punch bowl if you're trying to take product to the market. You put them together, you make one of them eliminate. It's not so that one of them can elevate and move on. It's so that you get rid of half of your problem, which is a guy that's really good at something and people that don't want to see him do it. It's a major lesson in that. Nobody can go anywhere without an opponent. Nobody can go anywhere without a rival. There's no story. One guy's on the white horse, one guy's on the black horse. It goes back to day one of storytelling. And it's very tough. And that is a concept that Bo has no idea about. Bo will watch this video within an hour of me putting it out. He's not even going to know what I'm saying. He's not going to be one of the guys like Henry Cejudo that goes, oh my God, Chael, you're right, but tell me how to do it. He won't even think that I'm right. He'll think there's fight fans out there. There's a lot of fans out there that will tell you, I don't care what it is you have to say. I don't care what your story is. I just want to see you fight. They're wrong. They're personalizing an opinion. But if they wanted to prove that was true, watch the next MMA event on mute. Have your friends over, get the popcorn, ice down the soda pops, turn the show on, and then turn the volume off. Nobody's going to have a very good time. The people that think that they love the sport don't even know that about themselves. You want to talk about numbers? You want to talk about what's great numbers? One of the greatest numbers done in our industry is something called a fight companion. It's a Joe Rogan show. One thing you will not see is a single punch or a kick. You will see somebody you like to hear talk named Joe Rogan with somebody he has called his friends that are present, and they will watch the fights. They will enjoy it. They will see the punch. And all they'll do is talk to you, but you can go to the internet and get an audit that's done publicly by something called YouTube, and you'll see that those numbers are incredible. They're better than any show can even bring in. So you now don't just have fight fans. You have people that actually know what they like, which is to hear people talking about fighting. Way more fun. It's a totally another deal. And the only reason I'm bringing this to you and I'm bringing you this evidence is to tell you that even when you meet those people that think that's not what they want, none of them would ever watch it on mute. And if you told them that they had to, you go, man, that's not a very good time. I've never tried it, but I'm never going to try. Exactly, because that's what you actually like. You don't know. You think that you love a hamburger. It's actually the special sauce. You've got them confused. You don't even know that about yourself. And I go through this whole diatribe because I want things to work out for Bo, and I respect the way that he's doing it. I'm going to do my level best as a brethren within the community of wrestlers, and Bo being the only damn hope that we have right now. Why nobody has stepped forward, I don't know. I think the wrestlers still dominate. I think they could still roll right into Abu Dhabi and run Ragshot. I think they could roll right into MMA and take over in a very quick period of time. But if you're living in the era of saying, well, the great wrestler is behind us, we don't actually know. The wrestlers have quit trying, and now we've got Bo. That's great. But where I talk about, you can't get any sizzle in sport if you don't have stake. Guys, this goes all the way back to high school. I'll compare it to Westland High School, right where I'm at. We will fill up an arena to watch our boys play football. No problem. But we will never fill it up quite as full or quite as in advance as when we play our rival, who happens to be a team called Oregon City. And you guys can relate to that. Everybody has a rival, but you must have a rival. Sports don't survive because of courts and fields and referees and players. They survive because of rivalries, period. When I look at Curtis Blades, who's getting ready to fight, who's a very good fighter, is being forced into main events. He's doing nothing on his own to get there. Curtis Blades is going to be a main event on ESPN in exactly 4 days. I have not seen a single Curtis Blades headline. I am starved for topics. The only thing that will shut the lights off at Bad Guy Inc. is when I run out of things to talk about, and that is completely incumbent upon the athlete. I am dying to cover Curtis Blades, who I also happen to like. I don't have anything to tell you except Curtis is fighting on Saturday on ESPN. I don't have anything to tell you. I don't know why he's fighting. I don't know what it means to him. I guess he works hard and he wants to win. I don't know what he has with his opponent. I don't know if a loss, what that means to him or what it'll mean to his family. I don't know with a victory, what that'd mean to him or his family. If I did, I swear to goodness, I would come and tell you, but I don't know. I don't know because Curtis hasn't told us. And that's generally the wrestler's mindset, that it's all about shaking hands, displaying skills, shaking hands, walking away, and living with the result. And maybe I can get better. Man, that stuff's really cool for kids. I preach that to my children. Sports are for children. You want to be in professional athletics. You're now in a business, period. And that business is not observed with the volume down. That business is taken in with everything as loud as you can get it. Bo's got plenty of time, and I'm not giving Bo a hard time. I'm going to do whatever I can from the comforts of my chair and the two of you with window sheen in the background to make sure that I bring you his story. But I do need a little help because I would do the same thing for Curtis Blades. I'm attempting to do it now. I have now fulfilled my end of the obligation to Curtis Blades to the max of what Curtis has given me, which is he's going to be fighting on Saturday. I have nothing else I can possibly tell you about that fight. I don't know what that means to him. I don't know if he's changed his nutrition. I don't know if he's changed his diet. I don't know if he has no coaches, no teammates. I don't know if he's getting up an hour early and putting in more cardio because nothing has meant more to him. I don't know a goddamn thing because he hasn't told us. The story is everything. The sport is a game. It's reserved for kids. If you want to be a big boy, play like the big boys. Understand what you're doing. And if you're putting 100% of your time in the sport to learn how to do the sport, you're doing something else. That's not what we do here. And you're going to have to ask yourself early on a very direct question. Do I want to be the best known in my sport, or do I want to be the best at my sport? They're very seldomly the same thing. I couldn't name 5 soccer players for you. I couldn't do it because I'm not a dork, but I could name one, and his name is David Beckham. And I was in a conversation with my neighbor, Eric Benson, rest his soul, and I brought up David Beckham. And I was trying to show my expertise for the great soccer players, and I named out David Beckham, and Eric Benson, who played and coached at all levels, laughed at me. He told me that is not the best soccer player. He's got a really good haircut. He's got a pretty famous wife, and he did a fantastic job telling a story. And he said that David Beckham was very good, but never for a day in his life was he the absolute best. He was never, say, Cristiano Ronaldo, just by example. But it brings up a very good point, as simple as that might have been, which is, do you want to be the most known? And that's going to be something you can take with you later in life. That's going to be a platform that you can spring off of. That's going to be a bank account that is going to exist to make your life more comfortable, is why you got into this in the very first place. That's called the most known. Or do you want to be the best at it? Because the best at it a lot of times will never get recognized. A lot of times they do it in practice rooms. People swear up and down that the greatest basketball player ever is not Michael Jordan, that it was some kid in a neighborhood playing on a hoop that never got discovered. Or that when he did get discovered, he didn't put enough emphasis into his grades. He couldn't pass the clearinghouse to get into the NCAA to make himself eligible for the draft. That's what I hear. You guys have heard it too. Couldn't prove it. I couldn't tell you that kid is, but people within the basketball world swear to God. Bernard Hopkins swears to God to this day that when he was in prison, he was not in the top 50 toughest guys in prison. Bernard Hopkins knocked out Oscar De La Hoya. He's got an ego. He brags. He talks about his skills all the time. He never puts himself down, and he will look right down the barrel of the camera and say, there was 50 badder dudes than me in prison. They didn't understand the rest of it. They understand the focus, the discipline, the training, the showing up, the get into the gym, the get in a license, the get into the events. They didn't understand that, so there's a reason for those things. There's a lot of reasons out there where the best known and the best at it aren't the same guy. And in the world of MMA right now, we're the 3 biggest draws that will make more money than anybody and deserve to make the most money because they can swing the needle the most. Conor McGregor, George Masvidal, and Nate Diaz all have one thing in common, which is they lost their last fight. In fact, they have 2 things in common. They lost their last 2 fights. So if you want to say you want to be a professional, I don't hear with my trained ear that you want to be the best. When you said professional, that means you want to get paid. So what I'm hearing is you want to be the most popular. If I've heard you wrong, I'll stand down. If I haven't, rewind this and watch it again.